Hi, everyone. Hello, hello. Hi. Oh, so many familiar faces. Hi, everyone. So good to see you all. Hi. Thank you all so much for joining. Really nice to see you all. Oh, Bria, hi. We are super excited to have you all with us today. Thank you again for joining. I'm going to have Yahaira kick things off in just a second. But we do just want to, acknowledge that there have been a lot of really difficult and painful events happening over the past week, especially with the news coming out last night. And we know that that's been a lot and that we're all still processing that. We're all still going through that. So we just want to thank you all for taking the time out to join us today, right now. And also just to remind you that, please do whatever you need to do to take care of yourselves, especially today and the next couple of days. But, and also for whatever that means for the duration of our time together, whether that's hanging out with camera off or, stepping away whenever you might need to, or taking off if you need to. But yes, just please remember to take care of yourselves over the next couple of days and weeks. And with that, I am going to hand it off to Yahaira, who is going to kick things off for us today.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just want to make sure everybody can hear me before I continue to speak. Beautiful. Megan, thank you so much for that statement. It's good to have this community at this time. And so I really appreciate acknowledging what's going on and how heavy that is for, I know myself, as an adult who doesn't always have the words to process and come to terms with continued violence against the Black community. And it's really important to just kind of be in community with everyone today. So thank you for that. Good afternoon, everyone. Before I continue, thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Yahaira Gilmaestro, and I'm a proud new board member of the Octavia Project. And I'm so glad to have the opportunity to be here with you today and to get to learn from you as well. As an education professional, who spent over 20 years leading schools and programs for thousands and thousands of students in New York City. I was born and raised in Bushwick, Brooklyn. I still have family in Brooklyn. I'm a New York City person through and through. And as a mother of two 10-year-old twin girls, that's a lot of T's, the Octavia Project's mission is really close to my heart. And I really believe in the work that we're doing to champion young women and trans and non-binary youth, and give them the skills and confidence to build their dreams. In just a little bit, you're going to hear from a few of our alumni and participants, because who better to tell you about the work that we do than those that experience it. Just a few kind of logistical items throughout the event. The chat is going to remain open. We will have time for audience questions at the end. So feel free to cheer on, send a heart, raise your hand, applaud, all the things that we've learned to do on Zoom. Feel free to do all of those, respecting community norms. And you'll be able to put in your questions, and I'll have time in the end to be able to answer some of those questions or read them out loud for folks to answer. Feel free to DM me directly if you don't want to put it in the chat. I hope you enjoy the next hour or so with everybody. It's going to be a great conversation. And to get us started and make sure that we are on time and respectful of your time, I'm going to pass it back over to Megan.
Thank you so much, Yahaira. Thank you for that welcome. And thank you all again for joining us. As Yahaira said, I'm Megan. I'm one of the co-founders and executive director of the Octavia Project. Thank you all so much for joining us today for this chat. It's going to be, a kind of casual, we're a small group, so this can be really casual, really informal. And as Yahaira mentioned, we have a few alumni and participants here with us, so I'll introduce them in just a minute. But first, I just wanted to give a little bit of background about the programs that our participants and alumni are from. I'm seeing many familiar faces and names. So I think a lot of you know this already. But just as a recap, so we run free summer programming for young women and trans and non-binary youth in Brooklyn. Our programs are in Brooklyn, but youth come to us from all over the city. We've been running our Summer Institute for high schoolers since 2015. So this will be our 9th year. Kind of crazy that we're starting to think about 10 years. If you had told me that 9 years ago, I would not have believed you, but here we are. And in 2021, we launched our second program, which is our summer camp for middle schoolers. And that came out of, questions we'd been receiving from parents in the community saying, great, I love that you have this program for my high schooler, but what about for my younger children, right? So based on that need, we launched our summer camp for middle schoolers, which will run for its 3rd summer this year. All of our summer programs are 100% free to join. And what do we do in the summer program? So our programming is very much STEAM programming, so STEM plus art and writing. So we teach science and technology through art and writing. Our summer programs are really creative. They're about idea generation. They're about story generation. They're about creating things. They're about making things. They're about trying new things, stretching ourselves artistically, creatively, seeing what new kind of tools and skills we can add to our tool belt. We bring in guest speakers from a range of professions. So we bring in artists and writers. We also bring in architects and urban planners and software engineers and graphic designers and biologists and doctors. We've really had a wide range so that our students can meet these professionals and hear about their own paths and just kind of, help them start to think about their own career paths. So that is done in both of our summer programs. And then we also have a fellowship program, which is a leadership development track. So returning students who are 16 and older can apply to be fellows, where they will receive some leadership training and some leadership responsibilities, helping to lead our summer institute. And then once our fellows have graduated high school, they're eligible to come back as teaching fellows who teach the middle school program. So you're going to hear a little bit more about all of those programs in just a second from our participants, because they have participated in many of those things. So I'll introduce our speakers. And just a note, we were going to have 4 speakers here with us today, but unfortunately 2 of them are not feeling well, so they're not able to join us. But we have 2 really amazing and incredible folks with us here today who you're going to be really excited to hear from. So let me introduce them. So we have Xylon. If you want to give a wave, Xylon. Xylon is a Summer Institute participant. Xylon joined our Summer Institute last summer, and they are also a junior at Brooklyn Prospect Charter School.
Oh, I'm a senior now, actually.
You're a senior.
This is my senior year.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I need to update my notes. Xylon is a senior. Oh my goodness. Okay. Wow. Well, thank you extra for coming here today, because I know senior year can be very busy. So thank you again, Xylon. And joining Xylon, we have Cheyenne. Cheyenne is an alumni of our Summer Institute and is also currently a teaching fellow with our summer camp. Cheyenne has been teaching at our summer camp for the past 2 summers, so we're definitely going to ask her to talk a little bit about that. And Cheyenne is currently a junior at Brooklyn College. So welcome, Cheyenne and Xylon, and thank you again both for joining us. Okay, so I'm going to jump into questions if you're both ready. Okay, amazing. So to start off, we'll kind of zoom out a little bit. How would you describe the Octavia project to someone who is brand new to our community?
So I found the community to be very welcoming. Last year it was my first year like in Octavia project, as you know. And I'm an introverted extrovert. So that's how I just no opposite way, extroverted introvert. I am terrified of people until I get to know them personally. And everyone there was just very welcoming, and I appreciated that a lot.
Oh, yeah. I love that. I appreciate that extroverted introvert identity. What about you, Cheyenne?
I would agree. Yeah, it's really a safe space for people who may not be able to find those spaces elsewhere. I know when I was first starting, like I found it really hard to find spaces that were like friendly to young Black people who were really interested in art. So I found the space that Octavia provided to be really valuable for those couple of months that I wasn't doing anything.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. So as you both know, and you both talked about this, the Octavia project is very intentional about creating spaces that are supportive and affirming. So can you talk a little bit more about what being in the Octavia project space kind of feels like? Like, what is it, to people who have never been to a workshop, like, what does it look like? What's happening? What does it feel like to be there? Whoever.
I think that being there in itself, it's very hands-on, which I also liked a lot. Like when we did our I'm blanking on words. We did a lot of things, but it was very hands-on, like environmental science. That was like really fun to me. Um, and that's what I remember most vividly was our hands-on projects, and not just within like the fields of science, but also with art as well. And I found that really fun.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, very hands-on and like from a teacher point of view, it's like leaving space for people to be who they want to be and who they want to present themselves as. So, like letting people give you whatever name they're using at the time, letting people choose their own pronouns that they use in the space. Like, those things really matter, even though they're so small.
Yeah, I think they do really matter. And I think, yeah, they seem small, but they're actually, I think they're big things. So Cheyenne, since you mentioned, from the teacher perspective, I do have a few questions for you about what it's like, going from being a participant to stepping into the role of teacher, right? That's kind of a big shift. So yeah, can you tell us like, what was it like being a teaching fellow for the first time? Maybe you can remember back to like a few summers ago, but what was that like?
So long ago. I don't know. Like I was kind of worried because I was like, why are you giving me all this power? It felt kind of natural because I had been a fellow for so long before that. It was just like a few extra things to do, so it wasn't that bad. Um, but as far as like the experience is so invaluable because I was working retail last year, but either way, like I had a couple of customers and they were like, thank you for being like so patient with me. And I was like, is this weird? Are people not normally patient with you? And it made me realize like doing things like the Octavia project and being a teacher makes you like consider the other person, and it makes you be patient and understanding with people, especially like children. You gotta have to like have time and space for them. Um, so I think, yeah, participating in the Octavia project has been really invaluable for me. And I think I'll take those skills on with the rest of my life.
Oh, yeah. I love hearing that. And I think you are totally right that being a teacher requires a lot of patience, and I do think that's something that is sometimes hard to extend to others, to strangers, right? People we encounter in the rest of our lives. But I think it's applicable inside the classroom and outside the classroom too. Excuse me. Is there anything that you feel like you learned from the participants? Anything that you feel like they taught you? You were teaching them, but is there anything that you feel like you kind of got from them?
it's really hard to single out one thing because like my brain is just pushing things out constantly. But
Making room for
I don't know.
more, right?
Yeah. I feel like every time I do the program, like my worldview kind of expands because I'm hearing from people that I've never heard from. Like, you know, my nieces just got around middle school age. My oldest niece is, I think, 11. Um, so like beforehand, like I had these small children around, but I don't really communicate with middle schoolers that often. So it's interesting to hear from like, you know, people who are young now, people who are in middle school, in high school now, and kind of hearing what's going on in the schools and comparing it to like, you know, when I was in school and giving them advice and telling them about like programs that I did when I was their age that are, you know, free and that they might be interested in a couple years.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. And I feel like I'm remembering you like, showing your own artwork to some of the students in the program and how interested they were in that. And like they were just really excited to kind of get to know you as a person too, right? And I think that's something that like a lot of times, when we're especially in younger in like elementary school and middle school, it can feel hard to like see our teachers as people, or to really to know about them as people. But I love how you kind of I saw you opening up and sharing things about yourself and then them kind of reciprocating. Yeah, which I love. And so speaking of art, both Cheyenne and Xylon, both of you are very talented artists and creators, among other things. Very talented, artistically and creatively. So can you talk a little bit about just what inspires each of you as an artist, as a writer, as a creator, kind of, yeah, what inspires you creatively? Like where do you draw your ideas from? And if Octavia Project kind of played a role in that at some point too, where do you see that? But also more generally, where do your ideas and inspiration come from?
So a lot of the times my inspiration are like the people around me, so my peers. So yeah, I'd say that Octavia Project gave me like new people with new experiences to talk to who have definitely shaped like story. Like I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily a writer, but I do want to write stories eventually. um, because I do want to go into the field of animation where you need to be expressive of identities and stories, for character animation at least, which is what I want to go to. So I'd say a lot of the times it's the people around me who inspire me.
I love that. Yeah. What about you, Cheyenne?
I don't know.
And we see some, is that your artwork on the wall behind you?
So this, and this, these are my artworks, and these are some art that I bought from Etsy.
Oh,
Um,
beautiful.
yeah. Actually, I think this one on the bottom was free. He sent it to me with that one that I purchased because he's like a smaller creator on Etsy, and I thought that was cool. Um, I don't know. I'm inspired by everything, whatever I just happen to be looking at or consuming at the time. So, Octavia Project definitely put me onto some good authors. I've been trying to get through the Dawn trilogy recently. I'm on the second book now.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay. How's that going? Tell us.
I like it. I like Dawn. It's a great trilogy. The way it's written is great. Like I love science fiction. I love speculative fiction. I like dystopian things. But the issue that I always had when I was younger is that a lot of them are centered on white voices and voices that I couldn't relate to at all. So reading 1984, I didn't like it. I did not like 1984 because there was a part in the book where he spoke about like women being more like easy to manipulate or something like that, and it wasn't great for me. I didn't love that. I read it like on my free time. It wasn't even for school, so I was like, why am I wasting my time with this? So being able to read N.K. Jemisin and Octavia Butler has been like so good for me. Like seeing people, first of all, Black women who are doing such great things then and now, and reading these stories from their point of view, reading these stories from like other people's point of view. Because N.K. Jemisin, I was reading The City We Became. There are so many different point of views in that book, and I feel like she represents them so well. It's really inspiring for me.
Yeah, and I know you've gotten a chance to meet NK, and you did an event with
A
her
couple
of
times, yeah.
times. Yeah. And I think it's really incredible to talk to her and hear about her process too, and her career trajectory, right, as a writer, and how she struggled a lot, right, to break into writing, to break into science fiction, to get recognized, to get the acclaim that she deserved in that field. Yeah.
Yeah, really excited to buy some more of her books.
Yeah, me too. Xylan, is there anything that you're reading or watching or listening to, or artists, writers, creators that you're into right now?
I was watching Inside Job, and then Netflix decided to like sweep all of their animated series off.
I hate when they do that.
I was watching, recently I've started Abbott Elementary, and I may have watched like all episodes of like both seasons within the span of half a week. And then reading, I have this book. It's called like Children of like Blood and Bone or something like that.
Yes.
I've been meaning to reread it. It's not my copy. It's a copy from the school, the middle school I went to that I never got to return. But I plan to reread that one. I remember really enjoying it. I find comfort in rereading a lot of fiction from middle school because it feels familiar.
Ooh, I love that. Also, like, you as a now senior are also going to take things, you're going to take different things from it, right? You can kind of read it, remember what you got from it as a middle schooler, and then also recognize that there's maybe some newer, different things that you're going to take from it. Yeah. And you can return that book to the library whenever, you bring it back. It's like you get to revisit the school. It'll be a nice reunion. Yeah, but that one's another really great one. Okay. So going back to OP, what are some new things that you've done or tried for OP that maybe like you wouldn't have, or you were really curious to do anyway, and kind of you got a chance at OP? If you can remember what we did. I know it was now many months ago for you, Xylan, and some years ago for you, Cheyenne.
I think just that opportunity to bond with people that I like normally wouldn't talk with. I get very shy around new people. So I feel that experience in itself, it just pushed me out of my comfort zone. So I'm very appreciative of that. And I made a lot of friends. I still have people that I talk to today from OP.
My internet cut out a tiny little bit there. But I think I heard most of it. And Cheyenne, what about you?
Definitely coding. I've never been shy about saying that I'm not a math person, and I always thought that coding was like this far distant thing that you had to have this great grasp of math to understand. So I don't think I ever would have tried it if it weren't for the OP. But also like just writing and trying to write a whole story. I took a creative writing class last semester, and I was like, yeah, this is easy work.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. I love that. And actually, Cheyenne, you brought up coding. So one of the other questions I was going to ask you both is, what role do you see creativity playing in things like coding, or in, the world of STEM more generally, in science and tech and math? Like, do you see creativity playing a role there or not?
So,
Sorry. Oh, no, you can go. Sorry.
Me, like my childhood game, I've always loved The Sims, right? And follow me, right?
Oh, yes.
Always loved The Sims.
You're a Sims person.
Huge on The
That's right.
Sims. And one thing that people have always had an issue with is like how EA runs The Sims and how like they always rush the games and they're always terrible. But following the development of this new game called Paralives, which is supposed to be like kind of a direct competitor for The Sims, another Sims adjacent game, which I'm super excited for. I see where they're coding and they're working so hard, and I don't know, there you can see how passionate they are and how creative they are in the way that they're building this game from the ground up. And I'm on their Patreon, so like I see a lot of like the step by step kind of like the posts and the asking people and polls what they want to see and things like that. And I think that like it takes a creative person to want to go against this like conglomerate and remake a game that they're passionate about and see the issues with and kind of like build it from the ground up. It's a small team. I believe it's like 5 people now, but at a point it was like 3 people. And like that's really like inspiring. It's great to see and watch happen.
Yeah, we definitely have some other Sims fans / addicts in the chat that I see. What about you, Xylon?
Similar experience, just a different game. I don't know how it's kind of like an idle, not a simulator per se, but you just kind of like walk around and you talk to other people.
Okay.
Similar experience, and I've been watching that one in development for 7 years.
Wow,
So
okay.
that's been fun. But also web design. I really love web design. So I've made a couple of my own websites. And the part where you have to balance like, okay, let me get this code down where it won't break, and let me make it look nice too. That's a real challenge. That's a real challenge right there.
I agree. Yes, something else you can spend lots and lots of time on, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. And also, Xylon, you talked about wanting to be an animator, which I feel like does really blend kind of visual arts, creativity, storytelling with technology, right? Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's interesting. When I was growing up, I always really liked math. I mean, I still do. I love math. And it was something I was like pretty good at, and it came pretty naturally to me. But when I was coming time to like decide, what I wanted to study in college, math just felt kind of like, I don't know, a little like stale, or kind of static. And I was like, what would I do with math? I was interested in like social justice and working with people and feminism and creative pursuits. And I just like didn't see math really fitting in there. Like I didn't see how math could really let me pursue any of those other things. It felt like just like, oh, I'd be, I don't know, just like crunching numbers, like doing math formulas all day long. And I kind of didn't know that like, programming is math and programming is also super creative, right? That you can like really, you can tell stories, you can make things, you can be a creator. And I kind of didn't know that till we started the Octavia project either, and we had some awesome computer programmers help us create a curriculum that really blended like storytelling and creativity with programming. Okay, and so kind of continuing to like zoom out a little bit, and actually I'm gonna ask this question of Xylon and Cheyenne, and then I'm also going to open this question up to the audience as well, because I think this is something I'd be interested in hearing other people's thoughts on too. So what role do you think artists, writers, creators have to play in building the future? I know it's a big question. And if folks also want to think about that and answer it in the chat, you're welcome.
So I think creative arts are very significant in outlining the future, because you can kind of explore ideas that aren't actually true in your current world that you would want to be true for a future world, or just as a hypothetical. And that can inspire a lot of things. Like, I can't think of a good example right now, but you can,
It's okay.
being like, fiction doesn't always have to be like unicorns and fantasy. It can also have overlaps with the real world and how you want to spark change. And that change that you write, or that change you draw or dance or sing or whatever, it can inspire many people.
I think that was really beautifully said, Xylon. Yeah. What about you, Cheyenne?
Yeah, I was just like thinking about how in a lot of my classes, like quite a few of them, the way we start the class is by talking about how the way humans, Homo sapiens, set ourselves apart from every other species is that we create art. No other hominid species has ever created art before us. We've always had art. We've always had this drive to create, from cave paintings to telling stories to creating music. They had music in the caveman era. Like they would poke holes into like these little tubes and like play it like the flute. We've always had art. We've always had all these different forms of art, and it's just coming down to like the different ways we've learned how to create over time. And I think art is hopeful. I feel like if we didn't have art, we wouldn't have hope as a people, you know, like all of those other species that didn't have art died out. So, you know, maybe that's what's letting us live so long.
Wow. That is
When you read like speculative fiction, like a lot of it, or at least N.K. Jemisin, like it's so like near and dear, especially again, the city we became is in New York. So I'm like, I know where this is. Every time like she says a different street or a different area of New York, I'm like, yeah, I get it. And it's through these lenses that like you've never really thought about before. And but they're just so close, like how the invader is kind of like, you know, these governors who are coming in from all these other places and making these rules that don't make sense for New Yorkers because they don't understand us. I think art is just so powerful. It's so long. Like the stories that we're telling have been stories that have been around for so long. Like when you think about vampires and mermaids, those have been tales of creatures that have existed for hundreds of years, just told with different names and in different languages. And also, yeah, thinking about the fact that so many different cultures around the world have very similar creatures is so interesting to me. Like everyone has a mermaid, everyone has a vampire. I think that's so cool.
Yes. Ooh, I love this history you're bringing in, Cheyenne. Also, I did not know that about cavemen having musical instruments.
Yeah, they had musical instruments. I believe it was called The Cave of, it was a Netflix something or other that he had like pulled off of Netflix or something so we could all get to watch it. But it was called like Cave of Wonders, Cave of Dreams, something along that line. It was super interesting. I believe they found a cave in France, and that's where that all kind of like sprouted out from. But they had found all these like cave paintings and they were super intricate, and some of them were in places that they couldn't even reach anymore. It was super cool.
Wow. You are always teaching me something, Cheyenne, every time I talk to you. I love that you're bringing in the history there. And
Cave of Forgotten Dreams. Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. I'll watch. And I feel like something that, you know, we've talked about, Cheyenne, when we're having conversations about teaching, you know, at the summer camp, we talk about how if you don't kind of learn or create new ways of teaching, new ways of facilitating, new ways of leading a room, it's really easy to just fall back on the ways that it was done for us, right? And we spent a lot of time talking about how we want to be kind of different teachers than we had growing. Then, you know, we've all had some great teachers, and we've all had some teachers who have not supported us and uplifted us and our voices. And we spent a lot of time talking about how we don't just want to kind of replicate the leadership model that we've seen done when we were growing up in school. And I think that kind of extends to living our lives and and creating a future too. We kind of need alternate ideas of what the future might look like, how we might create an inclusive and just future, and if we don't have these, if we don't imagine it, right, if we don't write it into being, if we don't create it into being, then we're just going to fall back on the ways that we've been doing it for a while. We also got some very great responses in the chat. Bria shared, I think just like Octavia Butler, creators have a way of providing warning towards the future we're heading towards, or a guide to the future we'd prefer to create. Ooh, I love that. And Rosia said, show us how to think outside of the box to widen our understanding of what's possible. And Andrea added, sci-fi especially helps us imagine worlds that are more diverse and open than our current reality. We received so many great responses here. Thank you all for adding. Laura saying, art lets us challenge what's been and how power would have us be. Love that. Okay, and I have one more question for Xylon and Cheyenne, and then we're going to open it up to audience questions. So if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask, but Xylon and Cheyenne, can you describe the other people that you've met through OP?
So one of the people who I still talk to time is Noct. Noct is very sweet. He's so very nice. Who's also an artist. And I just really like talking to him. He's just a very nice guy. Sometimes me and a couple of other people, we've had a plan to do a Dungeons and Dragons group for a while. We haven't gotten around to it. But everyone who I met last summer, it was just a really wonderful experience.
Oh, I love that. Let me know if you need help getting your D&D group started. I'm in a group, so I have some tips or tools or resources if you need help getting that off the ground. Sounds very fun. What about you, Cheyenne?
Yeah, I would agree. Like, just nice. I think that Octavia Project usually had a couple of people that were like you could always find your person in OP. I feel like even if you didn't necessarily get along with everyone, there was at least 1, 2, 3 other people that you would like get along really well with. Like, I still speak to Autumn. We had plans to go out like a couple days ago, but I got sick, so we couldn't. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah,
you'll see them again.
Yeah, we'll see them again. But yeah, I feel like everyone's just really nice, regardless of if like you don't get along or anything like that. Everyone's just really nice to each other. I think we hold civil space, if nothing else, which I think is good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I love to hear that you're both still in touch with folks. So I know we're getting close to time, so I do want to leave some space for audience questions. And I'll welcome Yahaira back on the mic to share any questions you might have received, but also if folks have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We're also a pretty small group, so if anyone wants to come on mic and ask a question, you are welcome. Or if you want to take a minute to think of questions. I'm still reading responses to our question in the chat, which I love.
So I have a question for you, Megan, and I guess the question would be, what's next?
Sure. Hi, Rob. Thanks for
Hi.
joining us. Also a D&D fan.
Also, and I have not been through the Octavia project, in case if you were wondering.
Yes. Thank you for that question, Rob. Yeah. So what's in store for OP this year? So we will be running our 9th annual Summer Institute for high schoolers and our 3rd annual summer camp for middle schoolers. This year, we're also working on building out some additional supports and opportunities for our alumni. So for example, one partnership that we're currently working on is with the Brooklyn Speculative Fiction Writers. They're a really big writing community here in Brooklyn. And we're creating a partnership with them to offer writing mentoring opportunities to our alumni. So they'll get paired with a writer from Brooklyn Speculative Fiction Group. They'll work together on kind of honing a particular piece of writing, a story that an alumni is working on, to prepare that for publication, either with Brooklyn Speculative Fiction Writers or in places beyond. So we're trying to add more opportunities like that for our alumni. And then next school year, we're thinking about how we can sort of build out our programming to start offer some programming during this school year as well. So that's kind of our next step that we're thinking about. Thanks for asking.
There's one of the questions in the chat for the both of you, which is what is or was your favorite project or activity that you worked on while in OP?
Good question. That was a memory challenge.
So I wasn't there for it that day. That day I had called out sick. But we did this sediment project where we would supposed to bring different pieces of like sediment, so like dirt, rocks, stuff you find like in the ground from your neighborhood. And I feel like I like the idea of that one. That one sounds very like nice, like bringing different parts of each person and bringing it together. I really like the symbolism behind that, even if it wasn't supposed to be as symbolic as I'm making it out to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been here for so long. It's like, wow, we've done so many different things. But I think my favorite thing, this one year we had done this like 3D art world building, and we only did it that year, and it was so fun, and I loved it so much, and we never did it again, and I was so sad.
I remember that. Yeah. You built a really cool thing. I remember it was like
Of
your
course.
museum, right? That you were
Mhm.
making. Yeah. I remember that. We should maybe do that again.
We should.
Yeah. I love
Ooh,
that.
and the art, the music thing. I like the music thing, making music. I ended up
Yeah.
making more music for my digital art class. It was great.
Whoa, that's cool. We did that in the camp
Mhm.
too, right?
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. We do have another great question from Parker Jones, and it says, do the two of you have any ideas or suggestions for opportunities around art or STEM education that you'd like to see expanded, or added either in OP or elsewhere? So what are your ideas basically for expansion in STEM education?
Great question.
So this wasn't within the OP that I did this. This was a couple of years before. So this was in 2019. I had gone to a STEM camp at what school is that? It was like High School of the Arts, so like somewhere in Manhattan, one of those art high schools that are in Manhattan. So like the really big, busy ones that get a lot of funding. Anyway, we did like art engineering kind of mixed with the arts, and that was really fun. So what we did is we did coding, and then we put it onto an Arduino, which is kind of like, the best way I can explain it is like a flash drive that you don't have to connect to a computer. You just like, you play with wires and stuff, and then you connect it to something else. And we made this little like plush octopus, and its arms would move, and it like would light up the tentacles with like using the code that we did. And I really appreciate the combination of art and engineering. It's so fun to me.
I love that. That sounds very cool.
Yeah, the only thing I can really think of is I would love to see, so I participated in a mentorship with Smackmelon, and I think that was great as far as like preparing me for what to expect as far as like being an artist, being a working artist, applying for residency, stuff like that. I would love to see more galleries around New York do that for high schoolers, maybe even middle schoolers, like get them ready for thinking about like what to do during high school, things like that, to prepare for college and the world beyond. But additionally, I would like to see more mural making programs for kids because I think that requires a level of planning that nobody's ever ready for. I think that would be really cool.
That's
I
really
love that.
amazing. I don't see any additional questions, Megan.
Okay.
I love the ideas that you both have shared. Again, as a mother of young girls, I'm just like, how can we get them exposed? How can we get more girls, not only my own? Those are such incredible ideas that you all are just readily available to answer these questions. So thank you for that. Megan, I think you had one other prompt for the audience, but I don't see any additional questions.
Okay, great. Yes, we do have, because again, we're all teachers, so we do have a closing question for all of you. And that question is, so thinking about everything we've talked about today, what is one thing you want to take away with you for the rest of the day, the weekend, the week from our conversation here today? And you're welcome to put responses in the chat, or if anyone wants to come on the mic. We have a few minutes, but again, the question is, what is one thing you'll take away from today's conversation to bring with you into the rest of your day, weekend, week, month, year? And thank you, Laura, just put that question in the chat again. So I'll give you a minute to think about that. A closing question for you all. Yeah, but I know we're just about wrapping up, so oh, we're already getting some great responses. So I know we're just out of time, so I'll hand it back to you, Yahira, to wrap us up. But I just want to say thank you so much, Xylon and Cheyenne, for being with us today and for sharing all of your ideas and insights and sharing about your experience at OP. I appreciate both of you.
Yes, I agree. One of the things that I'll take away is similar to how I felt at the top of this conversation, that amidst the chaos and the craziness of this world, these kinds of events, these kinds of programs, all of us here remind us that not only the kids will be all right, like Chinesha mentioned, but that all of us in community will figure out ways to be all right. And Xylon and Cheyenne are a very good example of how our world is actually going to be okay amidst all the chaos. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing and ideating. We know that that takes time, and we know that it takes just mental power to be able to answer questions in this format. So thank you for that. You know, I loved hearing all of the responses. And as Megan said, that literally brings us maybe 30 seconds to time. So thank you for joining us today. It feels like a really good start to 2023 amidst all the chaos and in this community. And so look out for any additional updates about summer, which are, I believe, coming soon. As Megan said at the top, please remember to take care of yourself, take care of any loved ones, whatever it is that they need, and take care of everybody. Thank you so much for being here today with everyone.